Okay, the next item, 7.3, consideration of district and board of supervisors newsletter options. And this is from admin. Matthew.
Good morning, Board. Matthew Rothstein, Deputy County Administrative Officer. As always, it's a privilege to address your board this morning. During your budget hearings of Thursday, June 15, the concept of preparing and distributing regular district-specific or Board of Supervisors newsletters was raised. And before we go any further, I do want to emphasize the County Administrative Office stands ready to assist your board in distributing key messages of public interest. And we look forward to partnering and supporting your board and supporting county residents' information needs in accordance with whatever your board's direction is. On June 15, multiple members of your board voiced support for development of newsletters by district. And board members do regularly provide reports in town hall meetings or in collaboration with members of city councils. So having a written document that can be readily shared in those fora may enhance those updates and also help ensure consistency of messaging. There was some discussion as well regarding whether each supervisor would prepare their own newsletter or support would be provided by staff. Staff review at a minimum to perform minor edits and ensure messaging on major county projects is consistent across districts seems reasonable as a minimum. If it pleases your board, staff could also provide a greater level of support in terms of preparing language, provided that members of your board are able to relay what information should be included. And that would likely take the form of bullet points with essential information. And also if you could capture images that are in your districts that would otherwise require travel time, that would be a help in terms of limiting the staff time that it would take. And also in reflecting on your board's previous discussion, it seems valuable to draw out a few other considerations. And first, it's my expectation, and I'm confident it will be your board's expectation as well, that these newsletters, particularly if prepared by county staff or supported by county staff in their development, will focus on projects in progress and other essential updates on what is happening in your districts. Each of you are active in the life of your districts, and so you'll very likely have involvement in some of the projects that are being reported on, but the focus of the newsletters clearly would be meeting the information needs of your constituents. And examples of that could include updates on park developments and other major projects that are relevant to your district specifically. And some of those items would reasonably require coordination with department heads, or in some cases even community-based organizations that may be partnering with county agencies on that work. So considering where that workload is falling is important. And also it could include notices of upcoming events like your town hall meetings that are of broad community interest and or events where public input is critical. Could also include links to newly available or timely resources specific to the communities that you serve, and things like safety reminders, such as the fact possession and use of fireworks, including those labeled safe and sane, are illegal in all areas of Lake County outside of the city limits of Lakeport. And so messages like that, of course, would be in addition to the important preparedness messaging that's shared by the County Office of Emergency Services and other community groups on a regular basis. And as a second area of consideration, I'm cognizant that 3 of our supervisors represent areas that include cities that prepare their own messaging. So the communication needs across districts may be different as a result of those considerations. And a third area of category is distribution. During your board's previous discussion earlier this month, electronic distribution seemed to be what was envisioned by email lists. Late yesterday, we unfortunately ruled out the possibility that this could be done using the existing county website content management platform. While automated emails are available in some areas like requests for proposals and bids, for example, that functionality is not available across all areas of our website. However, as members of your board have mentioned, there are a number of products that are available that can provide that functionality. As you would expect, in addition to popular platforms, there are tools that are from entities that specifically serve local governments, and some of those are embedded in broader suites of software tools. So we may, in fact, want to go with a more standard consumer product. There are options starting around $20 a month for 500 recipients. Those particular plans would have to get a little bit more detail. They may not be fully appropriate to your board's needs. And plans that can accommodate distribution to all of your constituents would certainly cost more. But given that it'll be an opt-in e-newsletter, presumably up to even 1,500 recipients, for example, would be a pretty significant number to have opt-in. So available tools can definitely be investigated further, and we can determine what's most appropriate in collaboration with IT staff and others as appropriate if that's your board's direction today. In the meantime, it is possible, of course, to gather email addresses either using a Google form or asking people to email us to be added to a list. And you'll have seen a newsletter template was attached to this item for your board's discussion. The emphasis in creating this particular template was just solely on flexibility to create a form that was very easy to modify in light of the discussion that your board previously had. Wanted to make sure that it was something that could be easily edited, that pictures could be easily replaced without necessarily having to be moved, that sort of thing. So this is really just a very rough version, but intended to maximize what you're able to do with it to modify it. And so definitely appreciate your board's previous discussion, and we'll look forward to any further input and direction that you have today and your consensus building and direction.
Thank you, Matthew. This is something that I brought up during budget hearings because I've just been noticing a disconnect when I present at meetings or talk with people, and they just don't have any idea of what the work is that's happening in the board chambers and at all these meetings and with our different departments. And so I think this is a great way to communicate with people who don't have time to attend a lot of meetings or are just focused on their work and they'd prefer to have an email update. I've managed a lot of email newsletters and listservs over the years, so I've found this to be a really effective way to communicate. But I do think we can't really move forward in this conversation until we acknowledge our staffing crunch. And so I just wanted to give CAO Parker a moment to talk about that.
Yes, with the announcement of our most recent retirements and the fact that our ACAO is still assisting behavioral health, we're a little pressed right now and we have limited capacity. So my thought was that maybe we could do a slow rollout. Maybe we'll just start with something from the chair, and then as we build and we hire and retain additional individuals that can do this work on a regular basis, then we can roll it out to go beyond to the districts, if that is something the board would consider. Because at the time when we were talking about this, we weren't there as far as retirements, and now we are.
Right, and there's time to also research what's the best product, how we're going to be engaging and collecting those lists. So I'm grateful that we had this conversation so quickly, but I do know that we might have to slow our roll a little bit until we get fully staffed. And so once we are fully staffed, who would you envision handling this, or which position?
As long as we keep this to just the facts and not any real complex policy analysis, I think a management analyst could actually do this. So I did it as an intern, so I'm thinking that a management analyst.
You did it as an intern?
Yes.
At a different place?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Glendale, Arizona.
Okay, so I'll open it up for comments. Supervisor Green?
When you were interning, did you use commercially available software as a service, or did you use some proprietary government thing?
Well, back then, that wasn't really an option.
Okay.
You used Excel, didn't you?
I just want to comment, I do like the template quite a bit. This is in a one-page PDF. Most e-newsletters go out. You can do long form because you're actually scrolling down in a computer format. And then the platform itself creates the ability to either print it out as a PDF or share the link as a web page. So there's a lot of goodness in there. So I really like this first look. I know one thing that can be used to save work is to stage in the software program kind of a master template. And actually, you wouldn't want to reinvent the wheel, so maybe the project's in progress, maybe that could be left to staff or something like that. And then you could either have the chair with the main message or the individual supervisors with the main message. But if we didn't have to reinvent the content wheel for all of this, it would reduce any amount of editing time or staging time in the software, and then we could just really focus on that key message. So that'd be one way to kind of lower the amount of staff time. It's just kind of massage this, get it into kind of a proposed template within the program, and see how staff kind of takes some first looks at that. But I appreciate you guys are stretched thin right now, but I appreciate the work done so far, and I look forward to hearing more at some appropriate time.
Supervisor Spatier.
So I'll be somewhat repeating what I said last time when this was brought up. I still feel the same way. I think the way we communicate with the public is our job. If we had funding such as other counties where we have our own personal supervisor staff, then that wouldn't be a problem for us to work with our staff. But the admin office, in my opinion, is not our staff. I don't mind the idea of a board letter. We've done that in the past. I think that represents all of us and the actions that we have decided by consensus. But individual district newsletters is, in my opinion, our job, not anyone else's job. So I would prefer that we spend time on moving forward on all the projects we're asking staff to get accomplished versus checking for typos and grammatical errors and context of the stuff that we provide them.
Yeah, I'm in support too of rolling it out slow, obviously, if we're going to move forward with thing, but from the chair, as a full board, I definitely supported that. I thought we had some good traction when it got started earlier on in a different little, iteration. After our board meetings, I think is what we were doing after the meeting. We got the message out there, and sent it out to the community. So definitely in favor of that. And, at one point in the previous career here, setting up for 6 days, I talked about the staff and being able to have that. We do have neighboring counties, everything, you go meet with them, they got a scheduler, they got a staffer, and, we got an iPad and a cell phone. And so moving along those lines, we do have a lot of work to do, a lot of infrastructure dollars, broadband, our roads, all these other things, and a million other things that are happening. We'll be talking about, like the admin office, to focus on that, and if another conversation comes back, I think I've made my point clear where I like it as a board, a solid front, getting that message out there.
I'm good with moving it out slowly. Like we've talked about, I understand the situation. And I do like the collective approach initially, once we get into a position of having the resources for assistance, I think it would be a good idea. For example, there's a couple of town halls that I won't be able to attend. Something like this, would be official. They can read it off while I'm not there or whatever the case may be, because I usually give a report to them. I still do it anyhow. Like I said before, I'm going to do it regardless of if we ask staff to help or not. But I support it. So.
Well, it's an equity issue too, because not everybody can attend the town halls and get the update. It's, and sometimes there's under 5 people at my town hall, and so only the people that are in attendance get the update. And, that's unfortunate, because there's a lot of people that, need to understand all the things that are happening, like you were mentioning, the broadband projects and all of, and sometimes they're district specific. So that's why I think it's important to have that a little bit drilled down. I feel like if we can start with the board package, but it might be a little long, and it might be a little easier to do short bites for each district.
You're right too, because there sometimes will be limited, participation in the town halls. And so, like you said, having this available for people to read that don't attend, and it's commonly because of work, and they're 5:30 or 6. I know one has a 4 p.m. Some can't even come to these, and so I think it supports, specific people that can't come to town halls or to some of these meetings. So in both aspects, I'm in support. it's difficult to get participation at times, and it's not because they don't want to, they just can't.
Yeah.
Kids'
And
games, things like that.
Yeah, and it is our job to be communicating with our constituents, but if you have a city pushing everything out constantly, that they're doing a really good job in a district like yours, in a district where you're all unincorporated, we're lacking, and it is an inequity. So I can see how you wouldn't find it useful or helpful with your district, but to do my job and to get this information out to the constituents, this is something that I think could be really helpful. And it's not a narrative coming from me. It's collecting all of the projects that are in the works that people need to know and be aware about, and then getting that assistance from admin so that the message is coming out consistently across all the districts.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That cough was not supposed to happen in that manner. Coffee. I just want to add that we need to be cognizant that every board member is unique in the way that they interact with staff and the way that this will create time needs from staff. It will not be equal in how it will be applied. I just want to make sure that, because without some sort of policy that says, how many times can you ask for one of these newsletters? I just see this as being used to get the attention that's your job to get. And I get it that there's a city, but yeah.
I'm not disagreeing that there should be a policy around this, and, it's a monthly newsletter, it shouldn't be turning into a weekly or a daily thing. Obviously, that would really impact staff in ways that we're not anticipating. But on the other hand, we have to do a better job of getting information out, we just do. And I like having the record, too, of the saved newsletter, it's ongoing. For people to access when they can. We can have printed versions here in the admin office for people to pick up. It's just being the rural community that we are and being so spread out, there's information that we need to push out, especially during fire season. I mean, fire season is when we want to be able to make sure that everybody is signed up for alerts, everybody is aware of things that are changing and happening.
And again, those are more global county things than district things,
Well,
in my opinion.
They can be, but there's also, big, for example, like a big fuels project that's happening when we just talked about the Soda Bay Corridor project that's happening. That's grant funded, that's in collaboration with other organizations, and that would be a very good thing to let people know that's happening in their district. Supervisor Green.
Yeah, and I think I can get where both of you land. So one way to minimize the impact on staff is, although it makes sense on so many levels, to have at least some eyes on before it goes out, and it can be cringeworthy if there's not. To your point, it's our content, it's our communication with the district, and these tools are pretty powerful. I get the idea of a monthly and just, updating, but one reason I like the idea of this is, in addition to whatever monthly content or periodic content we send out, this is one more tool in the toolbox during emergencies. For people who aren't on Zone Haven, don't get nixels. Email can be the last refuge, and just the limited work I'm doing in my own district with my advisory board. I'm doing kind of a cobbled together email blast through that, and I'm constantly saying, please do not reply all to these email addresses, and it's constant. They do it anyway. You can't do it. One way this software is very powerful is it helps immunize the county from mishandling. People are opting in their addresses. If they opt out, that's handled. It's seamless. And even in a fire event, there are options within these programs where you're not sending out like really spiffy templates. You can actually send out just a text email as an alert. Like, hey, I just heard this. I'm flashing my district in Scotts Valley. Something's going on, like that fire nobody heard about, last week, trying to track down the smoke plume. So we don't want to add to the noise, but to the extent we are an official channel and we can and should communicate, in little microbursts. This is such a valuable tool. And so there's going to be some staff time setting up those tools, but if we can just not set it and forget it, but set it, get a policy for what we're pushing and when, very powerful. And I think that kind of ameliorates some of your concerns. Yeah, we should be doing the content. That's on us. We're communicating with our constituents. And there's happy news, there's good news, there's not time-sensitive news about projects, but there are occasions where we do want to reach out in a very meaningful and fast manner, and this is a great tool to have. So don't want to burden people with all that, but I see multiple ways to use this tool. One for the kind of general newsletter function, but also for targeted communications during times of crisis.
I think you helped to prove my point.
I think you spoke directly to his concerns there, and I disagree with how this should be used. I think that this should be an admin tool that admin manages and sends out in collaboration with the supervisor, and there's strict policy around that. It's not something that we're just firing off left and right. So I think I'll open it up to the public. Oh, you had one more comment? Sorry.
So I think the way I'm hoping that this will go, and I know there's going to be a policy, but not hoping, I already know, like, I will be doing the basic homework on this. I'll be meeting with the director or whoever to get the information to put into this, and basically staff would just be looking at it and saying, oh, no, yes, no, yes,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And it's really just more like a review. I don't think it would take too much. I wouldn't be asking staff to go and collect my information. I would be doing that. I mean, that's just what I assume, because I already kind of try to do that anyhow. So do it as much as I can without burdening staff, so.
Correct, and then running it, making sure that everything that we've collected is consistent with what's happening in the department heads, and everybody is in agreement. So, yep, I agree with you, Supervisor Crandall. I will open it up to the public. If we have anyone in the chambers who wishes to speak on this, or anyone in the Zoom room, not seeing anybody. Okay, bringing it back. So this is direction for staff. It sounds like, in addition to bringing this back, having a policy in place when it does come back. And whenever you feel like it's time. Okay. All right, thank you.